guess what? The American people, the voters that voted for Trump overwhelmingly, they are MTG. MTG is not radical or extreme. She's mainstream America, and I am very much looking forward to working in an administration that is on that level.
Now, hold up.
Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is funded by the ultra-wealthy, has the nerve to say nonsense like this on the flip side.
First off, $16 billion spent. Couldn't have been spent better, really. And showing our ability, really the one place that we know how to be charitable is with those running for office. And this has got to stop. Okay? I'm tired of talking about it. If you don't get why, I don't have time anymore. If you don't understand why that's absurd, seriously go f*** yourself, all right? Because that ball game is over.
Comedian Louis Black, a proud socialist, calls it out for everyone to hear. Get with the program, stupid. The 1% run politics in this country, and if you don't see it, you're blind as a bat.
Despite centuries of exclusion and robust evidence of continuing racism, minority underemployment is often couched in the language of bad choices and personal responsibility. I gotta tell you, anybody's unemployment has to do with bad choices and personal responsibility. And again, that does not have a skin color. I know a ton of white people that are as lazy and sorry and probably worse than black people I know. And I would not hire them because they're lazy and they're sorry and they're pathetic. And that has everything to do with their bad choices and their personal responsibility. That is not a skin color issue either. That's a people issue.
This is what people voted for. The racist language, the pro-insurrection movement, a party that is riddled with folks accused of essay, and one that will gladly overthrow democracy for a king because it benefits them financially. Thus,
Republicans were told by the Democrats that the man they were running was a threat to democracy, and that should scare them from voting for him, and then they should therefore vote for her. Well, this is how much it scared them. That they were so scared that they said, hey, let's see if this is real. So what we're going to do is we're going to give him the Senate. He's got the Supreme Court already because of his choices. He's now got the Senate, and he's got the House. And as the Supreme Court, he has everything.
he's right. He's spot on. The fears the Dems sold us on, how Republicans are terrible and should be viewed as a threat, showed why they shouldn't be taken seriously. Many who watch our stuff will probably be upset about this, but facts are facts. They did not fight for you. They had a conflict of interest with being populist, but also, kind of not being populist by taking campaign donations from corporations. They ran a center-right campaign, ridiculed leftists such as Louis Black, myself, and you, the viewer. It should be called out time and time again. They sold us out.
I come to Washington. I swear in on January 3rd. I get accused of giving insurrection tours, which I thought was hilarious because I couldn't even find the bathroom in the Capitol. True story. Then January 6th happens, and next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here. And I want to tell you something. If Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won. Not to mention, it would have been armed. Yeah. See, that's the whole joke, isn't it? They say that whole thing was planned, and I'm like, are you kidding me? A bunch of conservatives, Second Amendment supporters went in the Capitol without guns, and they think that we organized that? I don't think so.
To be clear, they are a threat. They're very, very dangerous. They're calling for Trump to be the ruler, yet Dems failed us time and again during the general.
They were told by many people, this is a big mistake. He's an authoritarian, and they shouldn't give him more power. And they did. They said, no, come on. let's see what would really be like to deal with a real authoritarian figure. And in light of that, let me just say that I am sitting looking out the window at a very depressed gray sky, rainy.
Can you sense how let down Lewis Black is? Do you not feel the same? Well, you should, considering what we are in for.
There'd be a lot of people I'd love to invite to this round table. I see someone standing behind you right there, Milo Yiannopoulos. I think he'd be a great person to have there. Alex Jones would be another person. We'll put together a great list of people who have been just almost deleted from public life due to this type of censorship, and I think Elon Musk will enjoy talking with them.
Extremism aside, why is she sucking up to the likes of Elon Musk? It's fairly obvious, as Black explains.
One of the things maybe we should have learned from this is they're going to, apparently they're going to cut taxes again, or this, at least cut the, keep this bill in place that allows the wealthy to still get a massive tax break, allow corporations to get a massive tax break. And if you're going to do that, then what you're doing, going back to what I was talking about before, you're going to give them, that's what they do. They take that money and then they use that money to influence the election, so that we end up spending $16 billion on it. And that way they can kind of push their agenda, which they've done.
Bingo. This is the entire blueprint. Get massive tax breaks, continue shifting money from the working class to the top 1%, and in turn the billionaires use our money that they received to fund politicians that continue benefiting their bottom line. It's a very simple equation.
We've already warmed 1 degree Celsius, and do you know what's happened since then? Here, let me tell you. We have had more food grown since then, which feeds people. We are able to, producing fossil fuels keeps people's houses warm in the winter. That saves people's lives. People die in the cold.
Right.
This earth warming and carbon is actually healthy for us. It helps us to feed people. It helps keep people alive. It helps. The earth is more green than it was.
I think when people are able to see past the stupidity and come to the realization that this is what corporations pay for, currying favors in the form of campaign donations, so spineless lawmakers like this will do their best PR for them. And when you realize how much of a farce our system is and what it enables, you'll see the bigger picture.
So they shouldn't be being given this kind of money, whatever side they're on, because that's what they do with a chunk of it. $16 billion. I don't even know if there are countries that don't have that kind of money. There's states that don't have that kind of money, I don't think.
Thus, it always comes back to this money and power. These entities don't care about us. They don't care about the climate. They care about themselves. And this is how they leverage billions of dollars.
For far too long, the establishment in Washington has sold us out. They promised unity and delivered division. They promised peace and brought war. Donald Trump has, and he will, make America successful again. He will make us wealthy again. And as God as my witness, He will finally give us the country we deserve.
They sold a lie. And with Dems running Liz and Dick Cheney, Republicans have the trifecta: the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
I hope you can all recover as you watch this all unfold, as we once again have entered a period of really just an extraordinary moment in time where the American people are led to basically I believe this. I know that I'm in the minority here, but they were led to vote for against their own interests. Yes, this is perfect. They believe it was for their interest. Okay, if I had anything to say about blame, the Democrats should take a good look, if they want to win again, over how this group, which it basically is saying in many ways, we'd like you to vote against your own interests, gets them to do it. And the Democrats, who think that they want them to vote for them because it'll be in their interest, can't get them to vote for them. There's the dichotomy. That's what we're stuck with. That's what I'm leaving you with. There's something to think about, huh? That'll let your brain tear itself apart, and all you're left with is a hypothalamus, I think.
Well, amen to that. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYTsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.
It is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
On Donald Trump's election night win.
Okay. I want to congratulate President-elect Trump. Y'all won fair and square. I want to congratulate you. I want you to do the best for the American people. Because I got some numbers here. 75 million people voted for President-elect Trump. 71 million people voted for Kamala Harris. So it's not a contest in my eyes where I want all 75 and 71 million to be successful. They're all Americans. He's the president of the United States, and I wish him nothing but the best. But we lost.
Charles Barkley shares his thoughts on his podcast, The Steam Room with Ernie Johnson.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, amazing.
He kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, you know. He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so bad. So
I just can't imagine.
But can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man, a very tough guy. And they see him, they can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Good. Yeah, that's amazing.
Just keep knocking him out, right?
Keep this in mind. Meanwhile,
And I just want to say this to the Democrats, which I'm an independent who voted Democratic. Do me this favor. Shut the up. When you win, you get to say what you want to. When you lose, you need to shut the hell up. Oh, President Biden they didn't get him out the race soon enough. Kamala didn't do this. We lost because we had no game plan.
so I don't agree with this. I just don't. First,
Joe Biden's decision to run for president again was a catastrophic mistake. It just was. And he and his inner circle, they refused to believe the polls. They refused to believe he was unpopular. They refused to acknowledge until very late that anyone could be upset about inflation. And they just kept telling us that his presidency was historic and it was the greatest economy ever. We just heard him again say that it's the greatest economy ever. Clearly, 70, 80% of voters don't believe that. They don't believe that about their own personal financial situation, but they just keep telling us that. And then after the debate, the Biden people told us that the polls were fine. And Biden was still the strongest candidate. They were privately telling reporters at the time that Kamala Harris couldn't win. So they were shivving Kamala Harris to reporters while they told everyone else, not a time for an open process, and his vice president can't win, so he's the strongest candidate. Then we find out, when the Biden campaign becomes the Harris campaign, that the Biden campaign's own internal polling at the time when they were telling us he was the strongest candidate showed that Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes. That's what their own internal polling said.
Barkley mocking the pundits who said Biden stayed in too long is not well-founded. Their own internal polling showed a landslide loss. On the game plan front via the AP, Kamala Harris has pitched a major increase to the child tax credit as part of her presidential campaign. Rather than providing the benefit through a tax refund, she wants to send monthly payments to parents, even those who aren't working and pay no income tax, to piggyback off that from her own website. They'll also expand the child tax credit to provide a $6,000 tax cut to families with newborn children. They believe no child in America should live in poverty, and these actions would have a historic impact. A few more. No one earning less than $400,000 would pay more in taxes. Well, that seems like a good deal. In addition, they had a plan for rolling back Trump's tax cut for the top 1%, enacting a billionaire minimum tax, quadrupling the tax on stock buybacks, and other reforms to ensure the very wealthy are playing by the same rules as the middle class. She had a plan to take on landlords who are price gouging the electorate with high rent prices, also a win. And if you're a first-time home buyer, she was giving a max of $25,000 to help with down payments. That's just a few paragraphs. We could keep going.
We still haven't solved the immigration problem, have no viable answers, never addressed inflation, bringing all these stupid stars out to rally the vote. What was that? Hey, I love Beyonce. What's bringing her out? That ain't gonna make me vote a certain way. Cardi B, I like Cardi B. That ain't gonna make me vote a certain type of way. You guys lost because y'all stupid. Come up with solutions.
A lot to get to here. First, on the immigration problem, Barkley states.
The negotiators have been inching closer to a border security deal after months of work here, but it could all unravel with former President Trump urging Republicans not to do a deal, prompting talk about blocking an agreement so that voters can blame President Biden for its failure and credit Mr. Trump with getting a deal if he wins the election.
Point the finger right here for it not getting done. Secondly, inflation was addressed by economists via USA Today. Most list the pandemic as the main reason for the historic price surge. Inflation, they said, would have happened no matter who was president, said Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics. There's a long list of reasons for the high inflation. The Biden-Harris policies that are on the list are at the very bottom.
I don't think everybody voted for Trump is racist or whatever. I'm not a fan of the guy, but he's the president. I'm gonna have to respect the office.
This has been a hot button topic since Election Day. Let me give room for one TikToker from Chicago who broke this down beautifully.
I referenced white supremacy in the post about Donald Trump, and people showed up in droves to tell me I didn't know what I was talking about. And I realized that people don't know what white supremacy is. People wouldn't know white supremacy if it stood in front of a camera and offered reparations to white people who fell victim to equity initiatives. If it promised to accelerate the defunding of public education that started after desegregation. If it hosted a rally where a speaker called a colonized island a pile of garbage and said that black people carved watermelons for Halloween. If it blamed immigrants for economic problems and promised a mass deportation. If it called black and brown countries and it preferred immigrants from Norway. If it called for white supremacist groups to stand by. If it told congresswomen of color to go back to their countries. If it called for a ban of Muslims entering the country. If it took out a full-page ad in newspapers to call for the execution of 5 black and brown teenagers for a crime they didn't commit. If it was successfully sued for refusing to rent homes to black people because its practices were too racist for the 1970s. If it pushed a racist conspiracy theory that the country's first black president was a secretly foreign-born Muslim. People wouldn't know white supremacy if white supremacist groups jumped for joy at its election. But they banded together to rush the Capitol building when he lost. People wouldn't know white supremacy if they voted for it, because they isolate individual actions without viewing the impact as a whole. Every instance of bias and hatred is treated like a single raindrop, insignificant. They find a way to excuse it so they can try to be included in its benefits. But what they've invited in is a flood.
This is why acceptance and respect are different. For example, I can accept the results, but I will never respect this man. It's also an indictment of what people vote for that I, aligned with many, are allowed to judge and conclude. These things just don't matter, which is another issue with who I decide to keep close to myself and in my circle. I didn't do it though. They did.
You know what I really want to do? I want to walk into a pharmacy and grab some toothpaste, grab some deodorant, and be out in 5 to 7 minutes. I don't want all the locked up. I don't want to have to push a button and wait 15 minutes for somebody to come. I want people to stop running in stores and stop robbing people. That's crazy. And I don't want to hear progressive or whatever. If you out here robbing stores, we need to put an end to that. Stop stealing people's stuff. Stop running in, breaking windows, and stop shoplifting. And man, I'm just sick of some of y'all.
Again, a lot here. Let's break it down. First, Chuck is, to my understanding, buying into the crime narrative. It is vital to see the data. Violent crime is down, not up, no matter what the facade of locked up goods may give. The Appeal's F.T. Greene has a really great piece on stolen goods. In part, Greene wrote, for corporations, the cost of theft and the cost of preventing theft both put a dent in a balance sheet. To maximize profits, they must weigh the cost of stolen product against the costs of securing it, and they often determine that it makes economic sense to simply let theft happen. More from Greene. This might be more tolerable if corporations took responsibility for their role in facilitating theft. Instead, they have placed the hapless victim, fueling the current panic to push for more law enforcement and punishment to respond to crime they have helped create. This approach makes financial sense. Why pay for guards when the state can foot the bill? Moreover, it presents a convenient opportunity for corporations to press the state to invest more in protecting their interests and the interests of their wealthy shareholders from the consequences of the class divide they've helped deepen, says William I. Robinson, a sociologist at University of California, Santa Barbara.
One thing that bothers me is that a lot of folks who voted for Kamala Harris are now saying, if you voted for Donald Trump, I want nothing to do with you.
Which is crazy.
And that's the part that we have to get over, is the fact that because you voted one way and I voted another way, that we can never see anything eye to eye, or we never want anything to do with each other, because we're getting nowhere that way.
100%.
I want to end on an important note, more from Ernie Johnson.
As much as I could say I was disappointed, I wasn't surprised.
I was surprised at the ease.
I was surprised that all those battleground states went one way, but I'm not surprised that it happened, but I'm not going to be mad at individual people for the way they voted. And I think as long as we continue with that kind of mindset where you voted that way, I want nothing to do with you, we ain't going nowhere.
So there's a lot here, obviously. The first is there's so many things, and I love Chuck, but there's so many things that he said that are just easily debunked. And it also shows me where he might be getting these pieces of information. Secondly, to piggyback off of what Ernie said, let me just give my perspective here, okay? I have seen countless TikToks from people who are saying that they are cutting off family, they'll never forgive, and I truly understand that. I also think right now we are in this middle ground of it's gonna happen in about 2 months, less than 2 months, and it's still so fresh and new. People are allowed to feel a certain type of way, but I also need everyone to just kind of take these days, try to have a mental reset, and then prepare yourselves, because it's gonna get really bad. But what I keep having this internal dialogue about is, as much as I want to have these people understand the ramifications that might come with making this decision to vote for that man, I also know that, I don't know why this name pisses off so many people, but as a Bernie supporter in 16 and 20, I know that those people would support someone like that because of his policies and how he's going to help people. So there needs to be this coalition of folks who did vote for that man, but also know the benefits. One would think, if not, then they drink the Kool-Aid and they're never coming back, but would see the benefits of how direct policies would affect them in the best way possible. There needs to be that working class coalition. There just has to.